Welcome to the FLIR Thermal Studio tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at the library tab. You'll see in front of you we've got the default screen that appears every time you launch the software, and across the top of the software we've got four main tabs. We've got a home tab, we've got a library tab, we've got a reporting tab, and we've got a batch processing tab. The idea of these tutorials is just to give you an idea as to how to use the software. So what I'm going to do is click on the library tab, and straight away we can see a list of directories down the right hand side of the page and some sort of thermal images or recordings. I've set up a very specific directory for this tutorial, and it's called Thermal Report Training, and I'm going to click on that, and what I have is a selection of images from different cameras and of many different applications. At this stage, if I wanted to go into the software and download images from the camera or from another device, what I do is right click on the directory and open containing folder. Now what this does is gives you direct access to Windows Explorer, so you can create directories, you can move images around to suit your application or the work that you're doing. Now, if we have a look at the images in this directory, all I need to do is really double click on any of them. So what we'll do is double click on image number 27, and we can sort of see we've got something displaying an elevated temperature. So the post-analysis part of this, if you look across the top part of the screen, we've got a series of tools. We've got a sketch tool, so if you use a sketch function in your camera, you can look at the sketch. You may be able to draw another sketch. We've got measurement tools, so we've got spot meters, we've got a line, we've got a rectangle, polygon, a delta T measurement, an ellipse, and also a magic wand, which gives you a temperature wherever you point it on the thermal image. We've got color palette selection. We've got isotherms, sort of three basic isotherms, above, interval, and below. And then we've got sort of a color distribution, anything from histogram equalization, temperature linear, digital detail enhancement. If you want to know more about these imaging modes, it's an ideal time to jump on a training course where we can discuss these in more detail. We can auto adjust, so we can thermally tune the image manually or sort of within a rectangle. We can crop the image, we can rotate the image, but also we can realign MSX, the daylight in the thermal picture, if it is out of alignment. So if we take this image here, I've got a spot reading on here. I'm just going to put it on one of the cables here, and if I want to look at another tool, I've got another spot meter, and all I do is really click the mouse. So I've got a spot 1 and a spot 2, and if you look at the right hand side of the screen, we can sort of see those temperatures being displayed. Now there's a lot of other information down the right hand side of the image. We can put a note in, we can see the daylight picture, and we can add this image straight to a report, or we can add the whole directory straight to a report template to speed up the reporting process. There's something here called add to batch. Now what batch processing is, it enables us to condition a whole folder full of images, let's say to the same color palette, to the same emissivity, to the same level and span. So when we put a report together, or when we want to analyze, it makes makes our life a little bit easier. We can also create a job, which means that we can create a batch process specifically for this group of image or this directory of images, and this will be shown in later tutorials. If we look further down, all the normal parameters, emissivity, reflected temperature, we've got the scale, we've got an overlay here, so we can overlay all of this information if we want to, and then sort of down the bottom we've got the camera details, the date the image was taken, the file size, and things like that. Now when we come to produce a report or even a report template, we can select tables that enable us to display this information if we need it. So sticking with the analysis tools, we've got a spot 1 and a spot 2, but if I wanted to know the difference between those, what I can do is just click the Delta tab. And if we look at the top right of the screen again, we've got a delta spot 1 versus reference. Now if I click this little symbol here, what I can do is manually select what I want to measure the delta T temperature between. Okay, we've done that. The DT1 temperature there is 17.7 degrees. So from there we can help classify how serious this problem is. Well, what about color palette? Okay, I think for electrical, I quite like iron. It's just quite easy to understand. However, if we want to use the isotherms, let's just put this this image in grayscale. So we've got a nice grayscale image, and then we can select an isotherm. So I want to highlight the warmest temperature here. I'm going to click the above isotherm, and you can see we've got a lot of red. If you look at the left-hand side, the scale, it's an above isotherm, so everything above a certain temperature is highlighted as a color. And then if we slowly move down to the bottom, we've got a manual control of this. So all I'm doing is clicking and dragging this this slider here just to highlight the warmest area. And this is a very effective tool. When it comes to color distribution, you know, we do get differences in these. They all enhance or work in a very slightly different way. If you need to crop the image, we can show the crop rectangle. We can cut out the little bits that we don't want. Personally, I think this image is okay, so I'm not going to select anywhere. But if you crop an image and hit the tick box, that will save that crop. Just be careful. This won't increase resolution at all. It'll just cut out what you don't want to see. Then we've got image rotation. If you've taken the image at an angle, what we can do is, you know, bring that angle back around, and we can realign the image. And then you may need to crop the image after that. Now, I'm just going to return back to an iron color palette, and I'm going to take the isotherm off because I want to show you the functionality of fusion mode. You know, MSX, we've got thermal only, we've got thermal fusion, we've got blending, picture-in-picture and visual. If we click on the MSX and adjust the fusion alignment, what I can do is, using this box, you can sort of see I'm manually aligning the daylight and the thermal picture. So I'm bringing the hard edges of the daylight picture and aligning them in the correct place on the thermal picture. There's many images I've taken where the MSX function hasn't really worked. And then we can, you know, how much MSX, how strong do you want that that signal to be? And then the last one here is show the profile plot. So we've got a graph here at the bottom, and if we go back to our analysis tools and we click a line, all we do is click once, drag the mouse, it'll draw the line across the image, and then click again to finish. And you can see we've got a very nice representation of a profile, differences in temperature. Now in some reports we may use text annotation, and in another tutorial we'll show you how to create this text annotation. However, for this image here, what I can do here on the right hand side of the screen is import text annotation from a template. And I've got two templates on here. I've just got an example template and a category 1 template. If I click category 1, what we can do is we've got a selection of labels. So this was taken in a basement. The component's not a fuse, but it's a contactor. The problem is that it's warm or it's hot, and the recommendation would be really to check the component. And if we hit OK, what's going to happen then is that's going to be embedded into the image. So we can save that, and we can close. And then what we can do is move on to another image. If you have a look at this one, we just go through the same process. We've got some analysis tools. This is probably more qualitative, but we'll put a few markers on here. We'll put one here. Let's put a rectangle in as well. There we go, got a rectangle on there. I think the color palette's right. It's a high intensity color palette, so it's a rainbow high color. We're not going to display any isotherms, but I think the important one with this is the alignment, the adjust fusion alignment. If you can see, there's a ghosting image of the MSX. So what I've got to do is just really adjust the two images, bring them in line, so that you know, they align nicely. And down the bottom here, I can manually adjust the scale. So just adjusting the level and the span a little bit, just to portray a good balanced thermal image. Okay, so I like that. What I'm going to do is save and close. So this is really the process of analyzing images within the library tab. Now, the library tab does have another function. If we go to another directory called recordings, and I'm just going to pick a recording, this one here, and we can sort of see if we play this through, it should play. We got a man waving there. Now, if we're interested in only segments of this, we've got a manual control of the slider here, and if that's the particular frame we want, what we can do is save a snapshot, and that's a radiometric snapshot that we can post-analyze later. If we're into just using a little bit of the video, again, we can set markers. So we can sort of say, well, actually, I only want to look between there and there. And then if we hit the save button, that saves that selection of video. With this in mind, the library tab has a very useful function within the FLIR report software, and careful management of your images will enable easy report writing. Welcome to FLIR Thermal Studio. In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at creating a new reporting template. To create a new template, what we need to do is click at the top left and click New. And then as we scroll down, we can create a new reporting template. So you can see we've got a clear screen here. We've got a toolbar across the top. We've got quite a few tools. We've got document properties. We've got a formula editor, which I'm just going to go into and show you. If I click on that, we've got a series of formulas. Now, this function, this enables you to create your own formula and then use that formula from the thermal images in the actual template or the final report. I'm just showing you this now, and if you need to create a formula, this is where you do it. We've also got another function here in the same tools box, and it's called a text annotation template. And this enables you to assign labels and values to the thermal images that you take. I'm going to click on this. I've got two here already. I've got an example one template, and I've got a CAT one. This is used for category 1 training. If you need to create a template, you can create a template just by clicking the button there, and it's fairly self-explanatory. You put in labels and values. So we've got a blank page. If we move over now to the insert image, we've got a thermogram, a thermal image button, and what I've done is just put a thermal image on the page. And next to that, I've also got a daylight picture. And it's really easy to build the report as we go. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to move the daylight picture under the thermal because I want to add a few other components. From the plot component here, what I'm going to do is put a map in. So any of the images with GPS coordinates, it will show where they are on the map. And I'm also going to input a profile function. And this will only become active if we use a line or a profile in the image. So you can see to the right hand side, we can configure all of the components or the tools that we put on the page. And if I double click on the infrared image, I'm just going to go up to the tools button here, and I'm just going to include a line. Okay, just a line. So we've got a representation of the profile, and I'm also going to put in an area box and some spots, just so that when we look at a results table, we've got some results in there. Okay, so what I need to do is save those, and I need to close that. Moving down a little bit, so we've got a profile, we've got a daylight picture, we've got a thermal picture. I want to include some data tables. We've got a lot of configurable tables here, but the easiest way is to add predefined tables from the toolbar. And this is a parameters table. I'm just going to add 3 different tables here. I'm going to put a measurements table in, and that's already started to complete itself from the measurements we've put on there. And I'm going to put in a camera information table here. So I can move this around. We can configure the page as we want to see it. Now, moving down a bit, we've got some blank area. If it's okay to have blank areas on a report page, you don't have to fill it with lots of statistical data. But let's put in just a generic text box. And what this means is that you will be able to just type in. You'll have a box, type in, text, for the report. Now, if you move over to the right-hand side, we can select a border color or a background color and configure this text box to how we want it to look. I'm just going to include another one, just another one here, and just moving down, I'm just going to write something in here. So I'll just double click and I'm just going to write in recommendations. And what I can do then is I can move that and put that within the text box. If we look at the top, I've got a logo tool. So what I can do is insert a logo in the image. Okay, it's a little bit big, but what we can do, we can move that up the page and resize that. So when I generate my report, I can put the logo in where I want it to be. I'm just going to resize this a little bit. It doesn't need to be too much of a dominant feature on the page. And I'm just going to put a heading on here. I'm going to put in a little text box and just move that up the screen just so that we can put in that this is a tutorial template and not a full-blown professional template. Okay, so I'm just going to double click on here and just going to call it Thermal Studio Training. If I want to configure the text, let's just enlarge the text box a little bit. And if I go over to the side here, I can configure the size. So let's put it to a 20 font, and I can configure the alignment. Where's it going to sit within that text box? And I can even change the color of that if I want to. What other type of fields do we have? We've got a data text field here. This is quite a nice field because if I put a data box in, we can have it anywhere on the page. And if we go up to insert thermal field, this group of tools here, what I can do is I can specify what data I want to go into that data box. So it could be, the camera serial number. Okay, it's going to come up as a generic number, but once you put a thermal image in there, it will display the correct serial number. It may be a text annotation. It may be a parameter. So let's say, okay, well, it's going to be the emissivity, and we can put that on there. We can also include page numbers and document numbers and things like that. And even from the formula, if we have another data box, we're just going to move it down so we can see what it is. And we click on the formula tab here. What we can do is select the formula that we want to use from the formulas that we've predefined within the software. So I'm just going to choose a very simple one here. Difference in temperature between 2 spot meters. And I've put 2 spots on that image so we can we should be able to get a result. Just double click on that, and it should give us a reading here. So configuring the page is important. You can make the page appear as you want it to, and even when you're creating the report, you still have the ability to change the way the page appears. You can delete tables, you can add things from the toolbar. Welcome to FLIR Thermal Studio. This tutorial is all about generating a report from an existing template. So if we have a look at the main screen here, we've got four major components to the software. We've got a home tab, a library tab, a reporting tab, and a batch processing tab. And this tutorial assumes that you already know how to create a template, or that you want to use an existing template, and that you've looked at the library tab and that you've managed the images that you've taken. So what we're going to do is generate a report using an existing template. So I'm just going to click on this, and you can sort of see we've got quite a few nice little reports here that some have already been rewritten, but some of the templates are specifically for this tutorial. And when we start to look at this, I'm just going to use Thermal Studio tutorial. So I'm just going to click that template. I'm going to hit select, and then I've got a specific folder here, Thermal Report Training, and I've got a series of images here. So I'm just going to highlight these images, and I can drag and drop them onto the template, or I can just add them to the report. So with these images, the report should take probably about 10 or 20 seconds to generate. And the report template is very, very similar to what's been shown in the report template generation tutorial. So we have this. We can sort of see we've got pages, and we can just hit the next button down in the bottom right, and you can sort of see that we've got a clear list of report pages with thermal images and daylight pictures, and where there's no GPS data available with the image, we've just got a blank space. So on this page, what I'm going to do is delete that. And what I've got here is I'm going to add a table with text annotations, because what I've done is added some text annotations when I analyze the image. So we've got a location here, it's in a plant room, we've got a component, it's a contactor, we've got a hot connection here, and the recommendation is to check that component. If we want to resize any of the analysis tools, we can do that now. All we need to do is double click, we'll enter the image, we can move the analysis tools, we can adjust the level and the span if we need to, and we can also have the full access to color palettes and isotherms and MSX and things like that. So I'm going to save that minor change. I'm going to close, and just going to sort of move on down. So I've got the recommendation tab at the bottom of the page. We've got our results tables, we've got the measurements, we've got file information, and we've got parameters. We have a look at another one here. Again, let's remove the map symbol here, and let's install text annotations, because there are some text annotations associated with this. If I want to, I can move the profile around, and if I want to at this stage, I can put in a data box and select a formula to cope with the analysis tools I've got on the image. You can see this image here. We've got no plot to display, and we've got no geolocation. So I'm going to remove that. But just to show you the functionality, I'm going to open the image, and I'm going to put a line on there, right across the bars of that radiator. Okay. I can add to reports from editing the image. I can add to a batch, which is going to be covered in a later tutorial, and you can see all of these specific image data. So let's save that and let's close. So we've got a profile here, so I can move that up. if I want to. And that can help us with our analysis. So moving down a little bit, we're just going to stop on a page that does have a location. And if I double click on the map, I've got a zoom factor here. So this information is embedded into the image when you take the picture, take the thermal image, and the zoom factor is a very effective tool because we can see exactly, where this image was taken. If I want to add analysis tools, I can do that. I'm just going to put a profile on here just to show how it does work, and I can save that. I may want to, manually adjust, thermally tune, and also with the MSX function, I may just want to adjust the MSX function here. So you can sort of see we've got a slight ghosting at the end of the building there, and with this box here, this dialog box, I can manually align this. That's a really nice feature. And I'll just hit the little tick box and I'm done. And if we want to check the image rotation, we can rotate the image, and we've got a crop function there just to make it look more appealing to the eye. So I'm going to save that, then I'm going to close. And then we can move down even more. And you can sort of see we've got some other images, we've got some other details, we've got some other tables. If you want to add anything at this stage, I can delete a table. I can go up to here. I can put in a data box, or I can put in isotherm details or geolocation. So let's display the geolocation in this instant. So just so that we can see it. So when we're done, we've gone through we've got our images in, we've sorted our formulas, we've arranged our text comments, and we're happy. One last thing I haven't shown is the logo tool. I'm just going to go up to the top. We've got a little logo here. I'm just going to double click, and again, you edit it from the right hand side of the pane. We can browse, and what I'm going to do is just go straight to the folder with the training information in. So I'm looking for the FLIR folder here, and I'm looking for thermal report training. And what I've done on here is put in the ITC logo. Okay, and it's just appeared. So this will appear on all the pages as we go through the report. So when we're happy with this, what we can do is save. And what it'll do is create a report file. And this is a file that we can go back to and edit. So I'm just going to call this training 1, and I'm going to save it. And then what we can do is we can export that to a PDF and save that as well. So the writing time is fairly quick. This software package doesn't integrate with Microsoft Office, which gives it a very applicable application. So we'll just wait for this to finish converting to PDF. Okay, top right it says report complete, and what it'll do is open up in a PDF reader. So when we look through this, the template took about 10 minutes to create. The report took about 10 minutes to create. And we got a lot of meaningful information.
Welcome to the FLIR Thermal Studio tutorial on batch function basics. Batch processing allows us to apply conditioning to multiple images very quickly. And we can see on the screen that we have now, we can start a new batch. And we will just clear all of the batch jobs out. So what we can do from here is actually start a list of jobs that we can select from the toolbox that we see on the left. So to start off with, whilst we can do many things here, just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm simply going to make sure that all of the palette is common to a rainbow palette. We can add other functions, but what I'm going to do today is just add an isotherm. So we've got an isotherm which is above 50 degrees C, and that isotherm will have the colour of grey. We could choose to have a universal level and span, or set the auto scale. We can add units, text annotations, and indeed have a common set of parameters such as emissivity, reflected temperature, distance, atmospheric temperatures, etc. We've also got the ability to add a number of tools which can be used later on by the template software. So in this case, I'm going to add a maximum spot meter, which will identify the hottest spot within the entire image. We could also choose to have many other tools, but in this case, we're just going to stick to one. Now we've got the list of jobs that need to be applied to that list of images. I click Next, and I need to select my images. So, in this case, I've got a set of images set up, and I'm simply going to add these to the batch, select all of the images in the batch, and then start the processing. As the images process, we can see that the output is actually, in this case, out to the FLIR Sense output, and it should be noted that the new images that were created from this batch processing do not affect the original images that have been acquired. In this case, I'm just going to come out of here, and just for demonstration purposes, show that this image has now been changed as we expected to the correct color palette. We'll see that the isotherm has been applied and also the tool here. So that's all good. We then close this. We can select all of these images if we so desire, and then add that to a report. And in this case, we can see that those images changed have actually gone into a report, and a report template that has been created earlier, and all of those images and changes have been applied.